Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 26th of September 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comments. Coming up in the show, Valve's second announcement about the so-called Steam Machine. 3DS beats the lifetime sales of the Nintendo Wii in Japan, and we've got the announcements from the AMD 2014 GPU product showcase. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. Valve's second announcement comes as expected with the announcement of the Steam Machines, which is basically the Steam box, and the description of what exactly that entails, or at least kind of what it entails. The announcement page claims that the Steam Machine, or Steam Box, will be of multiple configurations, and even shows a little artist's impression with a variety of interestingly shaped boxes sitting happily under a large TV that is probably very confused as to why you have 7 PCs in your living room. Regardless, the Steam Machines will be available in multiple configurations, working with multiple partners to bring a variety of these PCs to market, and all of them will run SteamOS and will be released in 2014. Now, they also went on to describe that Valve would be releasing a prototype version, and they're going to be shipping 300 high-end Steam boxes to those who are randomly selected in a beta draw, which is going to be probably less likely than winning the lottery. One way or the other, the steps to do so are detailed on the Steam-powered living room page, which you can very easily check out on their website. Now, as to what exactly is going on with the machines, unfortunately, no new information was really released. So, honestly, we haven't learned anything beyond what we thought would happen with the Steam Box about a year ago when we first heard about it. There were many assumptions, which were based on what Gabe Newell had said at the time, that the Steam Box was more of a concept than it was a specific product that you could buy, and that there would be multiple kinds of them manufactured by different people. There were even rumors at the time that the Xi3 piston was one of those models, although that was swiftly debunked there by Valve. In the FAQ, there is effectively no information whatsoever as to what we can really expect, what the baseline spec would actually be, what kind of price points we'll be looking for here. Will they be significantly cheaper? Will they offer better price performance than a regular PC? Why would you buy them? You know, all that kind of stuff, that isn't answered in any way, shape, or form. Frankly, at this stage, it would appear that they're just reiterating the information that we already knew, although down to the bottom, they did describe something which might be a clue to the third announcement. On the subject of using a mouse and keyboard in the living room, they answered, if you want to, that's fine, but Steam and SteamOS work well with gamepads too. Stay tuned though, we have some more to say very soon on the topic of input. This has made people speculate that the third announcement may very well be a controller in the next couple of days, which is customizable. Other speculation leads to the belief that it might be an announcement of the Source Engine version 2, and then of course there is the obvious, that being the idea of Half-Life 3, so we will see indeed. So we basically know nothing more than we did previously. We assumed this was going to happen anyway, and I do view it as a positive, honestly. I view any attempt to make buying a gaming PC easier and hopefully more affordable to be a positive step forward for the market. The weird thing about this is that if you take into account the announcement of SteamOS, and one of the big features of that being the ability to stream games from your more powerful PC to the Steam Box somewhere else in the house, then you have to ask yourself, how useful will this thing actually be? Are they targeting purely low-spec markets with a reliance on this streaming? Because if you target low spec, then you have to wonder, are these people also going to own a high-spec gaming PC that can do the streaming in the first place? Now, they are promising significant performance increases from SteamOS, so maybe you won't need that high-spec machine in order to be comparable to, say, a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which is what they will end up having to now compete with, since they will be coming out before any of these Steam boxes are available. It does certainly sound like they're going to make the process of buying these machines easier, but it's not just the process of buying them that's the problem. You can buy a high-spec PC that's ready to go from a wide variety of different retailers. That's not actually the problem. The problem is the cost. Even stuff like the Alienware X51, very much designed to be kind of a console-like PC in terms of its portability. If I recall correctly, CyberPower and iBuyPower do a bunch of smaller factor machines as well that are kind of more console-like. even those are still very expensive, especially if you're looking for comparative specs. You're looking to pay probably twice as much, if not more, to actually get one of those. The lowest spec of the Revolt, for instance. That's one of the smaller form factor machines that's kind of console-sized, available from iBuyPower. I've seen them used at MLG events and actually a wide variety of gaming events because they're fairly portable. They're quite lightweight. Now, if I were to look at the lowest spec one of these, that would cost you $499. What does it have in it? It's got an APU, an AMD APU, which is a dual core. Yeah, that's a 3.4 gigahertz dual core. That means that it does not have a dedicated graphics card. The APU is what's handling all of the actual graphics itself. It's all integrated. Now, the A45300 is considered to be a good price performance CPU because it's extremely cheap. You can pick one of these things up for under $50 right now. But its performance is incredibly weak. We're talking about running Borderlands 2 at 720p, medium quality at 17 frames a second on average. Worse than console performance. And this goes on, regardless of what you end up looking at. I'm talking about 12 frames a second in Hitman Absolution. That is below console quality, yeah? And you have to pay twice as much for that particular machine. And sure, you can upgrade it, absolutely, but how on earth are you going to sell a $500 machine that performs half as well as a $200 console to anybody? I don't think accessibility is the biggest hurdle. I really don't. I believe the price is the biggest hurdle. I don't think you can successfully sell the PC anymore on the basis of look at all this other stuff you can do, because things like web browsing, email access, social media, you can do it on a phone now. You can do it on a tablet. Hell, you can do it on some televisions. That stuff is available elsewhere, so the lure of the PC is now significantly reduced. And as a direct result, I think we need to be looking very seriously at the price point. I'm totally okay with powerful PCs basically being like luxury cars, but you're not going to sell that many games if you need that in order to get the desired performance. And I don't know if this Steam Machines program will reduce those prices. I have no idea how in contact with the hardware developers Valve really is, and more to the point, how they're able to influence them. We didn't hear anything really at the AMD conference today as to whether or not they would be involved in it. They said essentially nothing. So can they help get costs down? Is it even possible to do so while still maintaining this kind of freedom, I suppose, that allows you to customize a machine to your liking? But I guess the question is, do we even care about that customization? I know a lot of us do, but it's actually entirely fine, in my opinion, to have a set of standards, to have a set of standardized hardware that is designed to work well with each other, that is optimized to the max for one specific purpose, and that is gaming. And then you can allow power users to build what they want. That can still happen. But you are able to lower the barrier to entry to PC gaming for others that simply cannot afford to pay that much. That's, to me, the biggest challenge right now. Using Windows is not that difficult. It's not a particularly difficult operating system. We don't have to make that simpler. Using a controller, the PC, is not that difficult. 360 pads work with pretty much everything on an immediate plug-and-play basis. These are a lot of problems that don't necessarily need solving. The problem that really needs solving is that price point. So we will see as this goes along to 2014 as to whether or not they have actually managed to do that. The 3DS has been on sale for less than 3 years, however, it has now already outsold the Wii's lifetime numbers in Japan, with 12.7 million units shifted in that country, in comparison to 12.68 million for the Wii, which of course was released in 2006. This appears to have been spurred on by the release of Monster Hunter 4, which has already sold over 1.7 million copies in the country. In fact, the top 10 is dominated once again by 3DS titles that take up half the spots in the list, including, of course, the ever-important number 1. 3DS sales in Japan this week have eclipsed the sales in every other region on the planet, with 284,000 sold as of the 14th of September 2013 in that week alone. That is only expected to get more ridiculous as Monster Hunter 4 continues to dominate the charts. And Nintendo's in trouble? How? I have to wonder. I mean, they are such a massive monolithic company, I suppose it does make sense, but they have really absolutely destroyed the Japanese market, which is very surprising considering the accusations that handhelds are going out in favor of mobile devices. These games are selling truckloads, as are the machines. Now, Japan is certainly a very killer app-orientated market. They are the guys that will buy a system solely for one particular game that they really, really want. But it is insane to look at just how well they're doing. Monster Hunter 4 caused a 126% sales spike. It's massive. Meanwhile, of course, on the other hand, the PlayStation Portable is still outselling the Vita in Japan. Oh, God. Oh, well, the PSP's still got some great games coming out in Japan, even though it's pretty much dead in other territories, so I guess it's not that surprising. This is, of course, why they're focusing on trying to get the Vita into the hands of the Japanese via the PS Vita TV, as well as the remodeled version. They are so desperate to break that and actually get the PSP below the sales of the Vita. But that's a tough position to be in. Regardless, that is quite the achievement, frankly, and it's great because the 3DS already has a solid lineup, and clearly it's getting way, way more titles, and it has a massive support base in Japan, which hopefully is enough to carry the system forward in the Western markets where perhaps mobile gaming is a little bit more dominant on phones and tablets versus the 3DS, which is still selling well in other territories, but compared to Japan's numbers, it's not even close. And finally, AMD has held their 2014 GPU product showcase, which announced several new GPUs, including the R290X, which is claimed to be even more powerful than the NVIDIA Titan, as well as the rather surprising announcement that they have developed a system by the name of Mantle, which is a console-style graphics API for PCs that they're claiming will be even more efficient than DirectX. They also announced that it would be available for Battlefield 4 in December, a couple of months after it was released, and it would offer greater performance than the DirectX 11.1 renderer. The renderer promises to reduce CPU overhead and will also make use of modern compute capabilities of current GPUs. In theory, the technology should be open rather than exclusive to AMD CPUs. The API itself is open, so theoretically, NVIDIA could purpose the technology on their GPUs if they so desire. This is actually kind of a big deal. I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand all of it, and I don't think most of you do either. It's difficult to explain. I mean, you are talking about APIs here more so than anything else. But think about this for a second. DirectX is made by Microsoft, and it's a closed API, yet they're the guys that can develop it and upgrade it. And Microsoft has very clearly shown that its priority right now is not PC gaming. Indeed, PC gaming competes with its own hardware in the form of the Xbox. That's what they're prioritizing because that's where the money comes in. So do you really want Windows and DirectX to be the go-to for games on PC? Why would you? It seems to me like the development of SteamOS as well as Mantle, and perhaps even other APIs further down the line, is saying, you know what, we want to take control of the PC platform back, and we don't want to rely on the mercies of Microsoft because they have not shown themselves to be reliable as of yet. Other features of Mantle in the Frostbite engine described as part of this presentation are that it has very low overhead rendering, loading and streaming on CPUs, perfect parallel rendering, which uses all of the CPU cores. I mean, that in itself is a big deal. Multi-threading these days, for some reason, is just not where it needs to be. I've got so many games that don't utilize the full power of my CPU. It also avoids bottlenecking the GPU and the system, and they're talking about full access to graphics hardware capabilities, so getting the most out of your GPU, lots of low-level optimizations, and that sounds pretty exciting to me. That's actually kind of a big step forward. I am all for alternatives, I really am. What would kind of suck is if we end up in an NVIDIA versus AMD war where they use different APIs. That could suck really badly. I mean, think about the idea of PhysX and TressFX and things like that now, whereby it's more difficult to use that tech on the other guy's hardware. Then think about designing your entire game with an API like that. That's a scary idea. I do dearly hope that this AI is as open as they describe, and that NVIDIA will be willing to play ball with it. I am all for competition, very much so, But the fact of the matter is, we can only own one of your GPUs. We can't own them both. We can't run them both in our machine. So I do want comparable performance. I mean, this sounds really promising. I am glad that they're moving away from DirectX, because that bloody API seems to be moving at a glacial pace. More to the point, they're shoving features into Windows 8, which people don't actually want to upgrade to, because they prefer to stick with Windows 7. Anything that's not dependent on your version of Windows would be huge. We definitely need to see that. So that's probably the most exciting thing that came out of it. Obviously, there's some announcements of new GPUs. We'll see where that goes. I'm interested to see what's going on with that. Most of them seem to be pretty high on the price performance, but we're going to have to see full benchmarks and real-world tests before we can really determine that. And then, of course, we have that beast, the R9 290X, which they haven't announced a price point for yet, but that thing looks pretty damn powerful. Leaked benchmarks that were posted on NeoGAF indicate that it may be more powerful than a Titan. It does have 5 teraflops worth of compute power, which is more than a Titan, but that does not translate into real-world performance, so we will have to see. But it is nice. I have said time and time and time again, we need good competition in this particular space. Otherwise, we will end up with dominance from one company, which is never good because they will get complacent. So we'll see. It's an exciting time to be a PC gamer. It really, really is. It's funny that we might be thinking about leaving DirectX and Windows behind. What a crazy idea, something we haven't even considered for many, many years. Alright folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. We have very clearly not had enough jazz lately. This needs to be resolved immediately with this track from LSD. It's called Castlevania 3. In the beginning, there was jazz. That is all you need to know. Download it in the description below this video for free, and I'll see you next time.